In this video, we'll see how to make a simple Retrieval Augmented Generation or RAG pipeline in n8n. This is when you automatically supply an LLM with references so it can ground its answers to your questions. We're going to do this using n8n's inbuilt nodes, using OpenAI embeddings to embed documents and query with our prompt. We'll then add it to our n8n workflow so it can automatically answer product questions. This is lesson 6 in our n8n crash course. If you're new to this series, this video will be self-contained, so you don't need to watch anything else. But if you want additional context or you just want to learn more about using n8n, then check out the entire course. All right, let's jump in. In the last lesson, we saw how to use DigitalOcean's agentic builder to automatically scrape a website to build a knowledge base and then supply that to an agent so it can ground its responses in factual data. Now we're going to show how to do the equivalent using n8n's built-in nodes. While you might choose the DigitalOcean method for more RAG-central applications and some of the other platforms' built-in features like traceability and logging, using n8n's built-in nodes to build the agent is also a great option, and it might be the better option if you anticipate using a lot of tools. n8n has this RAG template on their website, so we're going to show how to use this in our application and connect it to our workflow. This is a two-stage process. First, we have a form that we're going to use to upload files. This triggers the embedding model to embed the document and then save it into a vector store. So in this case, we're just using an in-memory vector store, but you can use something like Pinecone for this if you want. To do this, we need to connect an embedding model. As I said, in this case, we're using OpenAI. So go to OpenAI's API platform and then click on this settings button and go to API keys. You can create a new secret key here. So I'll make one called n8n inquiry agent, and then I will select the default project and create the secret key. I'm going to copy this value and I'm going to go to n8n, and in the embeddings model here, we're going to create a new credential and we're going to paste the API key here. So we're going to save that. We can see the connection was tested successfully, and now we can upload our files. So we also have this default data loader here. So this is what determines how the data is loaded and what data it accepts. So you can select a data format. Here we're going to automatically infer it. And then you can determine your text splitting method. So here we just have simple text splitting, but you can add a custom text splitting subnode so that you can go out and add a text splitter here. So this is if you don't want to use the default way in which the loader splits text. So the way Retrieval Augmented Generation works is by taking documents and splitting them into overlapping pieces. Your query is then converted into a vector, and it's compared to the vector representations of all of these individual sub-document pieces. So adding a custom text splitter here is just saying that you want to define a special way in which you're splitting this text. But I'm going to go ahead and keep this as a simple node here. And now we can upload files. So I'm going to disconnect this and execute the workflow. And I'm going to upload this text document I have and submit it. So now this has been uploaded to this node here as a binary file, and we can see the schema, table, JSON, and then binary. So we have this file uploaded under upload your file. So that comes from the field name here. So I want to go into my default data loader, and this will have the default data. So you need to change this to upload your file s_s, and you just need that to match whatever this field name is, or rather whatever this representation of your field name is, because it replaced the special characters with underscores. So just make sure it matches this here, and then we can get that hooked up and we can load it into the memory store. So we can see here this worked. The memory store called the data loader to load the data, and then it called the embeddings model to embed it into the vector store. So now going over here, we have our AI agent. So I'm going to move these nodes down here for now, and our AI agent has access to this data. But we're going to go here and we're just going to delete this connection so it's not connected. And we're going to use this agent as is. So the agent does need a chat model. So we use the OpenAI chat model here, and that's what's powering the agent. So we're just using OpenAI because we used it for the embedding, so we don't need to get another key. So I can now create a prompt. I can go in here and just say, hello. I'll remove this system message for now, and I can execute the step. And I'm going to add a manual trigger here. And then I can hit play. And now the agent will use this chat model to respond. So the output is, hello, how can I assist you today? And I can say, give me the number after 2. And then I can execute the step. And it says the number after 2 is 3. And then I can say, give me the next number. And it's not going to have the context to answer this question. So right now, as it stands, we're just using the LLM as a pure response model. So it has no memory, and it's just doing chat completions, and that's it. So we could add a memory here if we wanted it to be able to respond in this way and have back and forth conversations. Now, if you watched the last lesson, you might remember that I made this comment that we could hook this up to chat. So when a user submits something to our form and we detect that it's a product question, we could call a webhook to open up a chat on the user's interface so they can chat with the model to understand the product. So that might be a better way to respond than email. But for this tutorial, we're doing email. So we actually don't need a memory, and that's why this memory is optional. So instead, we just need information that the agent will respond with. So we're going to hook up this query data tool, and the memory key here is vector store key. So this query data tool is using that key, and the in-memory data store is using the same vector store key memory. So we're loading into the memory store the same thing that is being queried. And finally, we connect the same embeddings node to both the vector store and the query data tool. Because if we're using different embeddings for these two nodes, then it's not going to make sense. So this would be like if we took an English document and stored it as Spanish, and then here we're looking it up by German or something like that. So we need to be using the same embeddings, the same representation for both the storing and the querying, or this isn't going to work. So now we have our data hooked up, and I'm going to pull this execute node out, and I'm going to put these nodes back in. So these are, just like in the previous lesson, these are defining exception types that we're going to use, and then it's defining the system prompt. So here it just gives it the role, the instructions, and the constraints. If we go back and we change this query to, how do I list my DigitalOcean droplets with your API? So now if I run this, it's going to query the memory, and it's going to look for relevant documentation and then generate this response, which is what it's doing now. So we can see the output here to list all droplets in your DigitalOcean account using the API, follow these steps. And then now we can send that forward as an email. So as before, I'm actually going to copy this node here and put it over here. And then instead of manual execution, I'm just going to pipe this in here. And now I'm going to run this again. So again, it formulates the response. We have this agent take it to formulate the final email that we're going to send. And then we go ahead and send that email. So now if I go to my email, I can see the response. And that is the second way we can build a RAG agent in n8n. So now we've seen two ways to get our product answering pipeline set up, but what if the user asks something about his or her account? How do we authenticate that request? In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to build and send secure magic links in n8n so that users can just click a link in their email to authenticate their request. So jump over to the next video to continue with the course.